Hello, friends. Welcome to the final episode of the Doom Mixtape. And surprise, it's not Doom at all, but it's Mario. But it's also Doom. Yes, this is a map from Super MAYhem 17, a set released in 2018, done by the Doom community. The Super MAYhem sets were yearly sets done by different or directed by different members of the Doom World community. Each of them have particular themes. This one's theme obviously was Mario, and not only do I have Super MAYhem 17, but I also have a mod on here included with it called Mario Doom. It's mariodoom.pk3, which was originally based apparently on a WAD called Super Doom Mario, but then revised and stuff added to it. But not only does it have its own standalone thing, but this set has its own sprites, and trying to combine the two at once kind of leads to some weirdnesses. So somebody made a compiled version that compiles both, so you get the full experience. And yes, this level is called Sinking... God, what is it called? I'm gonna actually look this up. I have too many. Sinkysand Switchland by Daryl Stefan, aka Dobu, Gabu, Maru. We've talked about several of his maps, including The Given, including I can't even remember else. One of his maps from that's like a remake of the first Inferno map of Doom 1. That relaunched officially this series, so it's only appropriate. But this is one of two maps that we're going to be talking about. So this is map 31. So yes, Super MAYhem 17 is probably the most well-known of the series, of the MAYhem series, which have been done yearly, except for, I guess, 2021, by the Doom modding community, where there are things of different themes. So I think in 2018... the next one, MAYhem 2018, Dobu also did a secret map 31, which this is, based off of WoW.wad. But yeah, I played through this whole set back in 2018, and I really liked it, but this secret map was the most interesting to me. Unsurprising, because Dobu's made a lot of great maps, and this is heavily a puzzle map. So I played through it several times before already, because it's actually quite confusing. It's not very combat heavy. So basically the main idea is, obviously it's inspired by Mario 2 here. I'm fighting the Shy Guys, which are imps, and I got our like shotgun, aka this like piranha plant thing here, and we have two different, we have a red and a blue switch. And the red switches make the red walls go down, and the blue switches make the blue walls go down. And they're the same switch, so they switch back and forth. So it's a pretty simple puzzle puzzle premise, rather. But yeah, a lot is done with it, particularly in this section here. So there's one main section of the world, and now I'm going to struggle because I need to jump up on these stairs. I need to run down those stairs and jump up on the stairs, and usually it's fine. I get this first time, but for some reason, I had to keep doing this over and over and over again. And this, because I actually recorded a previous version of this video, and of course, the sprites weren't correct. It wasn't combining them right, so I had to redo it, and it took me way longer for some reason. So you can see there's a secret up there. So the secrets are the green stars, which I think is really cool. So I'm going to get one of the secrets. I don't know where the other ones are, but I'm going to get that one, which just involves some creative navigating around platforms, which I'm going to fail to do horribly for a while. But yes, I don't know. I haven't done a lot of full sprite replacement kind of sets like this, because I wanted to stick to classic Doom. But I feel like if I am, in fact, going to make videos about other games, which I do plan to do, maybe not full-time, but maybe I don't know, a few a year or something like that. What better way to seek into that than to have these lovely mods? So there's a lot of things that I could have chosen here. Hocus Pocus Doom. Hocus Doom is one of my favorite Doom mods of that type because it's based off of, I think I've talked about it before on here, it's based off of the DOS game Hocus Pocus. This is really embarrassing that I can't do this, by the way. It's like really easy to do. I think I'm getting like stuck on the wall or something. There we go. But yeah, and I keep missing that. But yeah, it's based off of the game Hocus Pocus, which is a DOS game, an Apogee game, by the same company that made Moonlight Software, that made this other game called Adventures of Clyde, which I might do a video about, or Clyde's Adventure. I used to own both of those games back in the day, or at least the shareware versions of both of them. But yeah, Hocus Doom is like actually way better than the original Doom. Or sorry, the original Hocus Pocus. Hocus Pocus is a kind of, like, it has some cool sprites. It's a basic Apogee platformer. It's not one of my favorites beyond the cool sprites, but Hocus Doom just like makes it five or six times better than the original game. So, but I also wanted to talk about two mappers I've talked about a bunch already. So that's Dobu and our next mapper, who we'll talk about shortly. But yeah, I don't know, like, sets like this are a testament to like how far the Doom community has come, because there of course always have been mods, you know, replacing sprites with all kinds of things. But in the 2010s is really when Doom modders got better at, like, first of all, having better art direction and art like sensibilities with how designing their levels, and also like translating kind of aesthetics into like good level design in a way that really feels like a whole experience. Because a lot of like earlier Doom mods that, you know, that might be have TCs or whatever, like it was generally like someone would do like a half-baked sort of project where they'd combine, you know, elements of another game or whatever, but like it was kind of like kitschy a little bit, and like maybe the maps weren't there. But like having mappers who, you know, are proven at being able to map in a bunch of different styles and make things that are interesting, just shows like the versatility of a lot of like mappers, how they've grown, and just like the versatility of these scenes in general. I mean, like I said, I mostly haven't talked about these kinds of sets, although, you know, there has been stuff like the Alphonse Zone, which uses like a lot of interesting new features from GZ Doom, and like that's a good example of a set where it's like still true to Doom, but it really does have its own unique feeling, and it just shows like the versatility of the mappers again, because the Alphonse Zone was done by Pinchy, who has gone on to do a bunch of Quake mapping now. I've seen a bunch of his maps in the sort of like Quake jams that happen, and his maps are regularly some of my favorites in those. So that just shows like how much being part of these communities and really like stretching yourself. I have no idea what the secret is. I have no idea how to properly access it. There's like a little maze under the sand. You have to go a certain way, but I don't know actually how to access it, because I'm obviously like clicking on it and trying to shoot that. So maybe you need to go from above, or you need to do something else, but I actually don't know how to get the secret. But yes. Oh, okay. Here's the section. Oh, I'll go back to talking about what I was talking about before in a second. But here's the section I was stuck on for so much. So you can see this is really based off of Mario 2. You go down these little vases, and you're trying to like switch. It's really hard to like explain exactly what you're trying to do. You're trying to like switch it. I think that's like one of the things that is confusing. So like what you're doing in order to reveal, you know, new areas, like I'm trying to get beyond that red wall that I just like looked at, and what you need to do to get to new areas is you need to step on the sinking sand in order to reveal them, and it's not really quite apparent that that's what you need to do, because the sinking sand is in that area with the first couple vases that I warped to, but it's off to the side, so it's not easy to see. So it took me like a long time to figure out like what it is actually need to do and remember like where you need to go here. So I'm gonna do this almost perfectly here, but it's not without having done it like a gazillion times. So don't think that it's easy, because it's not. So yeah, I had to warp over that one in order to go bypass that wall so I could go to it. And then I needed to remember to go to this one and not the other one. And here is the sinking thing that I needed to lower down. So that is actually a really hard puzzle to figure out, or at least it was for me. Partly because that like sinking wall was kind of hard to figure out. I mean, it's a secret map though, so it's appropriate. So now I do need to raise these platforms here in order to get to the higher blue wall. You see there's like a 2-unit blue wall, and then there's like a 4-unit, so I need to get up there. Just like what I did with the previous puzzles. This one's more simple. I just need to make them go up the right amount. Make these raising walls go up quite the right amount. It's just like I did with the previous one, where it's like, you know, there were like, you needed to balance this Lego brick puzzle that I talked over that you missed, where I need to like go over, I need to hit things in a certain order in order to like be able to make the proper staircase. So this is like a Doom puzzle trope that is used a lot, not just in Mario, but it is translated well here. In order, it's like using the basic like assigning of like sector tags, line def tags, in order to like alter sort of the behaviors of those lifts and make them into an interesting little puzzle. So yeah. I like the bloody shot, guys. It's kind of funny. But yeah, so I made the right amount of, but you see I had to like lower that slightly below that gray one so I could go over there, and now I've made it here. So there could be a secret here. So if you actually stand on parts of this pyramid here, it actually goes down because it's still the sinking sand. And I was like trying to figure out if there was some secret that I could get to from there, and possibly there is, but I didn't really bother. So this is also a kind of a difficult little area where you need to walk on the sand platforms in the right sort of combination. I'll go back there in a second. Right now I'm trying to figure out if there's anywhere I can go there, but I don't think that there is. So yeah, I like the Shy Guy sound effects. Yeah, they're the only enemy in this this map because it is heavily a puzzle map. So yeah, it's usually the imp. Like I was, yeah. There's a secret up there, but I'm not sure how to get to it. Probably maybe you teleport somewhere. There's another like secret that I saw earlier in the video, like a far off island that I couldn't figure out how to get to. By the way, I apologize for the bitrate being a little lower on this. I think it might just be like these combo of sprites don't translate very well, or it's possible that I lowered my bitrate when I was streaming my Christmas stream, and I didn't, because I was having connection issues, and I didn't like raise it enough when I was recording this, because you'll see more issues with that at the very end of this video. But yeah, like I was saying with mappers like Pinchy or Dobu, like they're people who are multi-talented, multifaceted, who can do a lot of different kinds of interesting maps. My favorite maps by Dobu are like the puzzle maps, but another map of his that I wanted to do was from the set called THT Threnody, called Financial Crisis at Enwrong. And that's a really wacky, really cool map, but I kind of always had the idea, okay, that was really lucky, because this whole area, like getting to this switch thing, hitting the other thing and getting to this like question mark block actually took me tons of tries the last time I played that, so I just kind of got lucky there. But yeah, here we're at the final area, and there's another one of these switch puzzles. This one's a little more complicated. So like the on and off switch raises the blue blocks, but then we only have green and red blocks that we can raise ourselves, and the red blocks take away from the blue blocks. You can see I have one too many on the green block there, so I'm trying to figure that out right now. But yeah, Dobu has not made anything since 2020, but he does, in fact, have a blog called The Minor Bits that's linked on his Doom Wiki page, where he writes about different video games, so I definitely recommend checking that out. I'm going to link it in the description, and I'm also going to link the Super Mario Doom slash MAYhem combo of mods. I will link that as well, so you can play this set how really it should be played. This is just a perfect like combo, because it's like, not only is it something that is, there's also map sets like Golden Souls and some other stuff, or there's like, there's wacky maps like Pirate Doom and stuff. I haven't really focused on that, but what I like about this is it's in the context of a lot of Doom modders who make other things, but because it's a community map set, they're making this, and just the combo of mods makes it its own really unique experience. And I feel like this secret map really embodies that the most, because it's so puzzle based and it's almost, like its own sort of game. And this is what I'm talking about with like the Russian WADs too, of like, or the Given, or map sets like that, where it's like, it might as well be its own kind of experience. It might as well be like a short indie game. It doesn't even necessarily have to be Doom, because it's doing so much that's different and unusual. And that's why I'm like really happy whenever these mappers either like expand out and do things like the Quake sets, which the Quake sets are another good example. Like they have like Xmas Jam and Summer Jam and things like that. They do a bunch of jams that I started playing a couple years ago. Those are really good examples of sets where it's like, like there are a bunch of different styles, and they're all sort of quick maps that are like, even if they're too hard, you can turn down the difficulty, that are fun to play, and like you can usually warp to them in portals, so you can, like try out different ones. And I always try out the ones by Pinchy, because they're always interesting to me in one way or another. And I think the Quake, some people that I know, Robert Yang and what's her name, who's working on Trash Bang on Twitter, who's working on Skin Deep, the Brendan Chung Annapurna game, has also been making Quake maps lately. So some people really got into Quake mapping lately, and I think that John Romero might end up doing a Quake map. I've heard gossip such to that. So yeah, that's Sinkysand Switchland. Sorry we didn't have a lot of time to talk about it. I was trying to get through a lot of stuff fast. But now the rest of this video is me struggling through another map. It's in fact map 31 of Doom 2 The Way It Did, released in 2013, and this is by Xaser and Megalyth. So this is, if you've ever played Commander Keen, this is one of the first freaking video games that I've ever played, were like Mario 1, Mario 2, Mario 3, and Commander Keen, so it's just perfect for me. Commander Keen is actually why I got into Wolfenstein and Doom, because I was like, oh, this is by the same company, and I was really into Commander Keen. But yeah, this one is based off of, obviously, Commander Keen 1 through... Commander Keen 1 in particular. You can see the world map. I'm doing this secret here, so there's a very convoluted secret to get to the next map, which is also a Commander Keen map, which is going to look horrible on this this video, so I apologize in advance. But this is a quite hard... just because it's a novelty Commander Keen map. If you're pistol starting on UV, it's not like it's not nothing. It's really easy to fall here. And those so we have Vorticons. I'm trying to look up the Keen 1 enemies list. Keen 1 enemies. Okay, they're called Gargs. These Gargs, they really do a shitload of damage if they rush you, so you got to get them from afar, and I don't start out with a lot of ammo, so that's kind of a problem. By the time that I'm finishing out the map, it's fun to just blast them away, because I have a super shotgun, but I don't start out with that. So they're called Gargs, and those are the main enemies that I'm fighting, but we also have the basic little eye guys. What are they called? They're not harmful. Yorps, who do not harm you, but you have to kill them on this map, which I did not realize because I was reading the Doom Wiki entry. So you'll see here, So this is a little secret here, and I'm killing these guys because I thought maybe you only needed to kill them in this room, because on the Doom wiki, I was trying to figure out how to get to the secret exit because I never managed to get to it properly. Like, I always found this secret, but you see there's a green door. There's no green key in Doom, so the green key is you have to kill every single one of the Yorps, and that's going to be a journey because there are a bunch of them in this map. And I, of course, like, after this was like, oh, I'm going to be a pacifist. I'm not going to bother killing them because I thought that you only needed to kill them in that area, but no, that is not in fact true. So you see there's a bunch of maps that are sort of based off of the maps in Keen. So I imagine that the design of these is at least somewhat inspired by, if not just the texture themes, then like the design of the maps themselves in Commander Keen 1. So yes, like as I said, I apologize for the stream quality on these Commander Keen maps. It just doesn't look great. I don't know. I don't know if it was the bitrate or just like the encoder was just not prepared to deal with like things like the floor texture here, or the texture on the next map. But it's possible if I wasn't playing it in GZ Doom, it would read just fine too because of renderers and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so like I said, this was done by Xaser, but it was also done by Megalyth, who I haven't really talked about. He has made some things in let's see, he co-directed this project called Switchland, which was the last thing that he did in 2020. And he was contributed to Doom 1 and Doom 2 the way it did. He has another map in Doom 2 the way it did, in addition to this collaboration with Xaser, and also a map in Doom 1 the way it did. Unfortunately, he passed away this year, so I didn't even realize that when I was playing this map, but yes, unfortunately, he passed away in June this year at the age of 40. So I don't know. There have been a surprising number of Doom people that I've talked about who have died. I mean, there's, we talked about Jim Flynn and Ty Halderman, who were a little bit older. But then there was also, what's his name from Alien Vendetta? Who did the famous Kim Andre Malds, who did the famous Pyramid map, one of the most famous Doom maps of all time, Doom WAD maps of all time, died many years ago. I think like 10 years ago. And then there was also Epsi. There were a bunch of people. So it's unfortunate, but I guess that just shows how big the community is. Yeah. And then of course Xaser. We've talked about Xaser so many different times. It's always difficult to even know what Xaser maps to talk about. Obviously, he contributed to No End in Sight, which is one of my favorite Doom WADs in general, along with Natural 20. He contributed to just a huge number of stuff. He has a lot of like weapon modifications and sprite replacements and sort of various hacks, but he's also a mapper. He's contributed to so many of the most like well-known community sets, like the Doom the way it did, and Back to Saturn X, and he did that. He co-authored that map that I played earlier this year, from what's it called? Syringe. In addition to a bunch of other maps, he collaborated with people on Syringe. He has a weapons modification, this called Vesper. Yeah, as far as I know, he's a programmer by trade, so it kind of makes sense that, he's responsible for that aspect. So I'd imagine he did that aspect of implementation more, and that Megalyth did more of the mapping for this, but who knows exactly who did what. I just love this secret map because it's so overachieving, and it doesn't really fit in with the rest of Doom the way it did. Doom 2 the way it did. I mean, I like that, they were trying to do a twist on, obviously, the two secret maps of Doom 2 the way it did are based on Wolfenstein, and they're funny jokes, but they obviously were done in a short period of time. This is kind of the opposite. Like, they way overachieved on this level, which is really kind of difficult and interesting level in its own right. You can see there's a little Yorp in the background there. I'm trying to figure out how to raise that lift. I need to do one more thing in order to do that right now. But yeah. Gosh, there's so much. But yeah, so this has like 4 separate areas, and I need to get 3 separate keys, and I need to kill all the freaking Yorps in order to access the final secret. But yeah, I don't know, just the level of faithfulness of just capturing the feeling of this game, even with the like gray void backgrounds or black backgrounds in the main map area. Just like the way that that's handled, like this could be its own like episode, you know, but they crammed it all into one level in the midst of a set where like a lot of people aren't even gonna play the secret map. So it's just very impressive overall. And it's just a testament to, you know, as I've said many, many times, things that people will do inside Doom. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I haven't focused on it, this angle, this aspect of Doom modding as much, because I think I tend to be more focused on the level design. And, you know, like communicating like why... You know, and maybe it's just me being like a retro Doom faithful type person, but like, I just find that aspect kind of the most compelling about Doom mods, like what people have done within limited means, even just using the default kind of sprites and whatever. And it is easy because we live in like the attention economy is so much like, oh, let's like pick a cool aesthetic and get noticed from that. And there are even like a lot of prestige Doom mods have kind of gone in that direction of, you know, like having some kind of new enemies or sprite replacements or whatever. And I don't have a problem with that, but like, I don't know, sometimes that stuff can be pretty shallow, or just be like kind of fun as a gimmick, but not really what I wanted to focus on. And I guess I just never was as much of an expert in that realm of Doom modding anyway, so... But yeah, it only makes sense to end out with it, especially covering from 2 people in particular who I've already talked about a bunch before. Like, if there's the angle of the Russian Doom modders that I talk about, probably my favorite of the Western mappers are people like Dobu or Xaser, who can do so many different things, and are just like really, you know, just I don't know if jack of all trades is, but like have their own particular styles, but do really interesting and cool gimmicks, and a lot of times within community sets that are not necessarily filled with that, but always add just like an extra flavor. There's always like something there that's like, yeah, this can be something more than that. There's always something that's like impressive. There is almost like a demo scene element to it. But instead of like showing off by, you know, just making really, really long and aesthetically attractive levels, there's also like an interesting gameplay idea or some kind of compelling, you know, architecture or something else there that isn't just a fun gimmick, which is like oftentimes the you know, the death knell of like demo scene stuff is that it's technically impressive that someone did this, but beyond that point it can be like not that interesting. So going to different stages here, you would think that this ice area is the exit, but that is not in fact the case. It's in one of the other zones. But here I'm actually just trying to pick up more ammo and health because I'm having trouble with that. And there do happen to be some of those things here, so... This is actually a shorter... This has the most fun little bit, one of the most fun little bits in this level that you get to regardless of what exit you take. So there's a combat scenario here where these guys are... they can really rush at you really fast. So You just got to change your angle. I think they have like Lost Soul scripting. It might be a replacement for a Lost Soul, but they're on the ground. But they move like Lost Soul enemies in that they like shoot directly at you pretty fast, and at like long distances they can fly at you. So I imagine they must have kept a lot of the enemy behavior for that. You can see even like a lot of these early DOS games, like Duke Nukem also does this, Duke Nukem 1, where they have like overhead lights that kind of make the backgrounds more interesting. So like, and it's really just done by, I really like this here. So we have our intrusion of normal enemies. So you go through here and all you have to do is shoot this little block here that drops, and it drops and crushes the Barons, who you clearly don't have the ammo to kill. So it's a fun little thing. This is the kind of thing that like a lot of Xaser maps do, but a lot of like things like the Alphonzone also do, and it's just very neat and creative, and adds like an element of humor to this whole thing. But yeah, like these lights, these overhead lights, it's just something done in order to make in like the original Keen or Duke Nukem to make it look more interesting and dynamic. But I like that they really carried that over in this set too. They really did a good job of that, of recreating the effect of what playing through these levels are like in Commander Keen. So even this like castle on the outside, which I don't think you can actually get to, it's just really impressive. And you can tell they probably worked pretty hard on this. Harder than a normal map. So it definitely is a very special secret that you would completely miss if you didn't, get to the secret exit. So now we got 2 of the 3 keys. So we're going to this area also, which is where we pick up the super shotgun. But I'm going to need to, once I do all that stuff, I'm going to need to go back and, go through and kill all the Yorps. So I actually edited out some bits of this video to make it a little bit shorter, to make it like more bearable to watch. I probably edited out about 10 minutes. But you're still going to see some of me wandering around. So maybe it'll be a good time to post-mortem this series while you look at the horrible compression artifacts. Oh my goodness. There's a secret over here. Oh yeah, I picked up the secret with the right here. Nice little secret. Those guys are so happy looking, like you don't want to kill them. In Commander Keen. So Commander Keen 1 through 3, I think, has these guys, or at least 1 and 2 have them. They're just like friendly little guys that are just there, and you can like stun them, but you can't actually kill them. Well, technically you can't kill anything in Commander Keen, you just stun them, because Commander Keen is like sort of this like in-between of violent and non-violent, because they're trying to make it a kid's game, which is understandable. You shoot, you zap them, sort of like in Chex Quest or something. Very comic book kind of, inspiration. But yeah, like, or it makes me think of like Calvin and Hobbes or something like that. These aliens, they're very like 50s sci-fi aliens. But in Commander Keen 4, they have those bouncy balls that really get in your way, but you can stand on and sometimes get you secrets and stuff. So I don't like killing these guys or stunning them, quote unquote, but I kind of have to in order to unlock the secret. I have to literally get all of them. They almost blocked me. From, you can see the lunging behaviors of these. Once again, I apologize for all the artifacts in this video. I guess it's only appropriate that we end with a heavily artifacted video. They just, whatever the like renderer that OBS uses just really doesn't like things like this. So I might have had to use a different renderer, or maybe not use GZ Doom in order to make this look right, but I didn't know that when recording. So yeah, now we got all 3 keys. There's also the exit area, but yeah, I'm gonna need to come back and stun these guys. This music, by the way, is by Bobby Prince. It's Make It Tighter from Commander Keen 5. Not one of my favorite Commander Keens, but Bobby Prince, of course, did the music for all the early id Software games up to Quake. And I don't know if he's like still with us, or I know he's pretty old when he was making it. I heard some like rumor that he was having health issues, but I don't know if it's actually true. I mean, he is pretty old, so I wouldn't be surprised. But in any case, yeah, like he really liked his like 12-bar blues progressions and like funky sounding things. Like the Wolfenstein 3D soundtrack has like a lot of like funky sounding stuff. So. And, like, the Commander Keen also has, like, a few tracks like this that are kind of, like, funky but also irritating. Like this and Eat Your Vegetables, classically from Commander Keen 4. But, yeah. I definitely recommend playing Commander Keen if you haven't, the series. I'd say 3 and 4 are my favorite, but 6 is pretty good. I don't really like Commander Keen 5, even though it was done entirely by John Romero, but it just seemed a little rushed. Commander Keen 2 has the, like, exploding the Earth thing where you can accidentally hit a switch to explode the Earth, which is kind of funny. And this first one is obviously what this is a remake of, so you can see that these are, like, different stages in the game. They have different themes. I don't know to what extent that these levels are based off of those themes. Like to the actual design of the levels, maybe the actual, because I know that there are some like mazy kind of levels where you fight, so that could be like what this is based off of. I don't, have Commander Keen 1 memorized enough to be able to like one-to-one put it, but I imagine that is where it comes from. Yeah, speaking of Bobby Prince, I had a friend who I guess said, who's like a game industry composer, I guess said that like Bobby Prince like mentored him at one point, and he was like very obsessed with the Duke Nukem 3D going after the Fat Commander like bass line, the bum 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 ba da da dum bum bum ba da da dum dum bum ba da da dum bum. Okay, so this area, there's this section here is actually where to like exit the map, and you have these little fiery flames, and this is where. Yeah, like, so, like, a lot of these, like, when you enter, you can't just exit straight out of the map. You have to find the exit in order to get back to the world map. So the actual proper exit to the level is here, but also this exit, which, like, let's say you went in here too early because you can go into any of these, like, stages at any order, so you can come back. So, yeah, here's a secret here behind the wall. Using the void space well, once again, and I'm gonna need to go back and get those guys. So it's another secret you need to get to in order to kill the freaking little Yorps, which I don't want to kill those guys, but you have to in order to get the secret. So yeah, I guess the void stuff actually makes me think of, it's very like just the use of that space. It's like obviously hard to see where you're going, but it's very creative. And it makes me think of like how much of these games, especially like these early DOS games, isn't even like in the engine itself. What is interesting about them? It's about like the creative use of textures and creative use of like the limitations that they have. Just like in terms of making assets and in terms of like, like I know they had EGA and I think a lot of these games were using EGA color limitations before the VGA became standard, and even VGA is like 256 colors. It's so they're like trying to design a color palette that looks interesting within that and like creates a sense of place. But like so much of it is this creative use of like void space or these lights, that shine down that like in the other area. Yeah, here we go. Like these lights, like Duke Nukem 1 uses it a lot too. It's just like very creative, but it shows you like how similar these are to like like filming on a set or something. It's like relies on visual tricks and stuff like that. So often like people think about game design as being, I'm still very angry that I haven't gotten all the Yorps here, by the way, because I need to activate that bridge over to there, the secret bridge, in order to get to the secret exit. So much of like how games are made, especially like, you know, in the earlier era, is just like tricking the engine. What can you do within it to like create a feeling of more depth? Because at some point you can't go, like, you can't, you know, go into the background forever and keep seeing infinite things. There's just not the amount of time and labor for that. So especially games like this are very good at like using this void space to kind of create a feeling of being larger than they are, and you know, create like a kind of interesting tension or feeling to the world. And like those lights that are just using textures, you know, or even like the signs that like, it's heavily that's a Tom Hall thing where he like invented his own language. Nice Yorp like rejected me there. Knows that I have to go and kill all the Yorps, so he rejected me from being able to jump over that pit. Very fun. Yeah, here I'm trying to figure out where exactly I need to go. So I made an edit there because I was consulting. What I'm eventually going to do is use the IDDT cheat in order to see what monsters are still active, so I can take care of the rest. Because like I said, I didn't realize that you had to kill every single Yorp on the map. So, but I don't think I have any that I need to get in this area specifically. But yeah, there's just something interesting about it. It is like, it's like film. It shows like, I don't know, something that Orson Welles talks about, like the movie F for Fake. It's like how much of what you're doing is like, you're just like a magic trick. You're just like showing the strongest, most interesting elements in the forefront and just hiding all the other stuff away from people. That is what making games is. That's what making films is. That's so many creative things that involve space in some way or another. That's what it is. And I feel like it often, I don't know, often people don't think about game design in those terms, and that's unfortunate because I think that like so many of these games, games like Duke Nukem 1 or Commander Keen, which maybe aren't exceptional in some ways, like they use the limitations of like the sprites that they have and like, you know, how much they can put in a given world at a given moment, like technically, in a way that still creates like a very particular interesting feeling. And I mean, it's a classic to like why everyone, you know, why so much of chiptune music appeals to people like it does is just purely based on limitations and what sort of, you know, magic people can conjure up, like, you know, the classic Tim Fallon example. So yeah, I'm looking for more of the Yorps now in this ice area. But yeah, I also think, I don't know, I just, especially because I'm playing Commander Keen, you know, a Commander Keen themed WAD, like Tom Hall doesn't get enough credit at all for the creative force that he is. I actually saw the Wolfenstein 3D postmortem talk at the Game Developers Conference this past year, and he was there, although not giving the talk. He was just kind of hanging out and like, you know, making comments from the side because John Romero was doing it. And I feel really sad that I didn't get to talk to him. I met him once, and he was very drunk but very, very friendly, and he gave me a keychain for Anachronox. It just like pisses me off that you know, because so much of Keen and you know, like just a lot of things in the early id Software days were his creation. And he just never got enough credit for it. He never really got credit for Doom 1 until, you know, a little bit later. And, you know, he was unceremoniously sacked from the project in a way that I think, honestly, was probably to the detriment of the project. I mean, it's cool that they hired Sandy Peterson, and I'm happy that they made the games that they made, but he just doesn't, Tom Hall just doesn't get enough credit. And he doesn't have the rights to fucking make, you know, a Commander Keen game anymore, or make Anachronox, and companies are using it for fucking to market just awful stuff or like NFT shit if they're doing anything. He's apparently even offered like to make no money off of these projects, and he still doesn't have. I don't know. It's just like such a fucked part of the industry that like the original creators can't do these things. At least like John Romero's coming back and making Doom wads or something. Maybe Tom Hall should make a mod for Commander Keen 4 or something like that. It just, I don't know. It just sucks like how much of that era of video game history, especially, it's like people don't have the intellectual rights to do anything. Like John Romero can't make another Doom game unless he's hired to, or Quake even. They don't have the rights because he's not working with id Software anymore. I mean, maybe they could make a deal or something, but they're probably not going to. Or like games like the Thief or Deus Ex reboot. It's like, with the Deus Ex reboot, at least they tried to do justice to the original game, even if it wasn't like great. But like that Thief reboot, it's like none of the people who actually made these things what they are get the rights to do them. And I know that that's just how it is, but it's bullshit. At least in indie games, like, at least Edmund McMillan can make another Super Meat Boy game if he wants to. He has the like ability to do that. But just like with the publishing situation in the industry at the time, how it was, it's like people couldn't do that. And it just, even with like relatively niche games, they don't have the rights. And I don't know, that's why I'm always like reticent with publishers too, because I'm worried about people like, it's like possible that without them, especially back in the day when, they needed, I mean, it was just standard back in the day for them to be able to ship out physical copies of things, for them to have publishers and stuff. But these days, maybe it's not as important, maybe for promotion or whatever, but I worry about people like doing indie publishers, like them potentially losing intellectual rights to their game, like 10, 15 years, maybe they want to make a sequel, but some company, like let's say somebody else buys out Devolver and is not interested in letting people make games. I don't know. Like, I don't know what the contracts are like for those things, but because so much of this like era of video games, it's like Tom Hall is even today, he's making fucking itch.io games that are still compelling because he's the master of like working within limitations. And maybe that also is why like, things like Anachronox or whatever weren't successful to the same degree, or he's not maybe somebody who's like a big AAA game developer. He's maybe an indie developer at heart, but still like just the amount of creativity, the amount that's like milked in out of very little is like, it's also like these modders like Xaser or Dobu or Megalyth for that matter, but especially like people like Xaser or Dobu are kind of the masters of getting the most out of like limited means in doing these maps and doing these megawads and about trying to make an interesting, unique experience every single time. And it feels so much true to like what that kind of era of creativity was about. It's why like when, Doom 2016 came out, I kept being like, people always ask me if I played it, and I kept being like, well, you should play Alt, because that is what I want Doom reboot to be, like, or No End in Sight, or, the Japanese Community Project, or, whatever else. Like, it's, like, to me, that feels like more of a direct error than, in terms of spirit, than something like, which Doom 2016 is a good game from what I played, so, but it just, like, it's just not the same thing fundamentally. It's its own different thing with the name Doom. So I just am not inherently wedded to intellectual property if it doesn't like maintain any of the things about the original that I like, And I feel like so much of certainly the film industry and also the game industry is that, and that has been something, I mean, that's always been why I've been interested in indie game development, is because I felt like it was at least closer to maintaining that spirit. Of course, like, we have the problem of a lot of people making games that are aesthetically appealing and interesting, but don't necessarily, like, translate. But, or like don't necessarily have deeper ideas. But that's why I think where these Doom mappers come in, because they're so used to trying to squeeze the most out of whatever map. And like, this is what is so interesting to me about a map like this or the previous one, is like that it's not just that it's a cool gimmick, but they really got something interesting out of the design. It's in its own right an interesting level. I'm trying to get the final few guys here. There's a final secret up here. You can see the final guys that are hidden in there. I probably wouldn't have noticed that unless I picked up that secret. But yeah, there's a Soul Sphere secret I just need to pick up. It's not actually that hard to get to, so which will unlock the final guys so I can finally kill those Vorticons. Sorry, no, Yarps, not Vorticons. The Yarps, the friendly guys. Or stun them, rather, so that I can get to the end. And, you know, we can see the very diminished stream quality version of the final level, which is also Commander Keen themed. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what else there is to say about these communities. Like, I hope they continue to exist. The spirit is, like, very important. I mean, so much of what I like is that people who are newbies can just dive in and play whatever, you know, and like make maps into these sets, and there's this inherent trust there that because the stakes are lower, whenever there's a community set, it's like, as long as you like deliver something, you know, maybe even if it's not very good, maybe the set isn't notable, but at least you know that the other people who are contributing to this community set will be playing it. And, you know, for me, when I contributed to Joy of Mapping in 2018, about 4 years ago, at the end of 2018, it was such a fun experience of having so many different people play through my map and give me like detailed feedback or stream it or whatever. It's like by far way more than anything else that I've seen like that, even though there was like 50 or 60 maps in that, because there was just an inherent like player base there. And a lot of the people who were contributing were newbies and stuff too. So just that like trust, that level of trust of like letting new people come in. And I know that it's like, you know, it does lead to some sets that are less interesting, but it also leads to people who end up doing things like what Xaser or Dobu or those Russian mappers, or a bunch of, you know, I haven't even talked about like Yak Fak, who's a great chiptune artist, but also has made some really interesting Doom maps, or other people like that, like, or Zanzan Zawavea, also known as Zanzan Zawavea. Yeah, there's just like, there's so much that it opens it up for, and that's what I love about it. Okay, so as you dive into the well, a maddening phrase echoes in your head: swim, swim, hungry. So yes, we're gonna fight the dope fish in a very poor quality video environment. I like this little, I don't know what this is actually a reference to, but yeah, we're just falling down the well here, and rip this video. But yeah, this is plays Eat Your Vegetables, and we have this BFG here in order to take down our dope fish friend. That'll help a little bit. Yeah, it's just very creative, and I just love seeing stuff like this, and I hope the Doom community continues to exist, not just because like, and it's not even just Doom, it's like those Quake jams, you know, or the things like the Haunted PS1, like the Madvent calendar compilations, where a lot of it is like done by newbies who are just trying to explore some new ideas and have a larger player base who will play them and like react to them. And seeing like people react and respond to your work is so important. And I feel like even as somebody who has a decent sized platform, like I feel like I don't get very much of that, like with my music, and definitely with like games like Problematic. It's like people might talk about playing them, but I don't see that much of like video, or, you know, and even then there's a lot more than a lot of other stuff. So it just like that's why these communities are so important, and why I hope they continue to exist. And hopefully like YouTubers and clout and that stuff doesn't, you know, threaten to derail any of that stuff, because it's so important, and those dynamics should be, you know, how they are. I don't know how long any of this stuff will continue to exist, if it'll be another 20 years and we'll still have Doom modding or mapping, or maybe it'll just go in and out of favor. Like Quake, you know, modding, for example, has had its own little resurgence. There are things like boomer shooters where it's like a lot of people are learning the hard lessons that like, just because you sell something in a commercial front and there's like games like Dusk that made a lot of money, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to. So I just hope that, you know, that community doesn't burn out, and they're continually people who are interested and able to do these things. And it serves as a launching point for other stuff too, because, you know, like I mentioned, Pinchy making maps for Quake and being really into those maps, or like, you know, I just like to see more stuff from these people, not just from Doom, but it is like a good way to like introduce you to those ideas. So yeah, there's Dopefish. Thank you all for watching this series. I don't know what else there is to say. I hope more people see it. I hope more people play these maps, participate in this community. I will certainly continue to play Doom maps and try to make stuff. Who knows? Maybe I'll resurrect this someday. I definitely want to play through some, you know, games at some point, or do some videos about games for this. I have my own podcast. I have a Patreon. You can follow me on Twitter to keep up with all this stuff. I hope you all had a decent 2022. I hope 2023 is much better, to be honest. And I will see you all in the new year. So have a great 2023. And yeah, enjoy and play Doom.